Alright guys, welcome back to Elden Ring. In the last episode, we have accumulated quite a few smithing stone ones, and we're going to use them right now. And we have a golden seed we haven't used yet, so we're going to go ahead and do that too, to increase our flask count. But first, let's go ahead and upgrade our Uchi Katana to +3. This will make the next sections much easier. Now keep in mind that this smithing table in the Church of Ella will not take your weapon past +3. You have to go to the Roundtable Hold to do that, and we're not going to do that till the end of the episode. So we're going back to Murkwater Cave for some unfinished business with Patches. So he sent us through that teleporter trap, and if you come back to him and talk to him after that, he will give you the calm down gesture. And then after that, we need to hit him 3 times, and then he's going to have to hit us to get our health down to really low, and then he'll give us the extreme repentance gesture, which we can then use to get forgiveness. But to be honest, guys, it hardly ever works consistently. I think you got to do it like 3 or 4 times before it registers. So yeah, I've never really figured it out. So you have to wait until he gives it to you. So you'll get the extreme repentance, and then you have to, as you're running around, you have to select it and then try to use it while you're getting attacked. You could just let him kill you and not go through all this nonsense. But this is the way you're supposed to do it. But you see, I've done it and it didn't register. Try it again. It's very finicky. Then he still hits us, but I was determined to get it to work. So I just kept doing it. And still, as you can see, he still hasn't acknowledged it. Now he acknowledges it. It really isn't worth it. You could just let him kill you, and he'll forgive you anyway. Now we're going to go to Fort Haight. This is the Grace where we left off last time. The reason we want to do this is because there's a part of a medallion we must collect, and we need to progress Kenneth Haight's quest, which we haven't met that NPC yet, but we're going to go ahead and do his request already, so that when we do meet him for the first time, we'll already have the task complete. Plus, we will get a golden seed up here, and we'll be able to farm for blood roses. So coming up here is extremely beneficial. Now there's a pumpkinhead enemy here, and he's on patrol, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go around the fort here, because there's another blood rose on the back side of it, and we want to make sure we get that. Plus, we'll avoid the pumpkinhead enemy all at the same time. Here's the blood rose right there. The hardest part about this fort are the enemies that have the high ground, and they'll be throwing fire pots at you. It's just annoying because you also have rats at the same time and explosive barrels around. So if they throw a fire pot when you're near an explosive barrel, you'll take even more damage. And we're kind of soft right now. We haven't leveled up at all. Actually, we're still level 9, which is the base level for the samurai. So we're going to spawn in our little wolf companions here. And I do recommend sniping this guy and this guy just to make your life easier. Make sure to pick up all of the blood roses in the area. This is a very valuable resource which we will need throughout the entirety of this playthrough. As you can see, we're going to be ambushed by rats, but pretty soon rats will not be a problem, because we're going to have a torch that will keep not only rats away, but any kind of beast. Well, most of them. There are some exceptions. But for the most part, any of your basic wolves, rats, snails, and even the giant Caelid dogs will be passive when you have the torch equipped. And it doesn't even have to be in your hand. It can be on your back, which is really nice. Before leaving Fort Haight, make absolute certain that you have collected this cookbook in this room. This is one of the most valuable recipes that we're going to have throughout this playthrough. The Nomadics Warrior Cookbook number 6. This will allow us to craft blood bolts, and I can't tell you how useful this is. You will see, because we're going to be using it quite a bit. Now there's still one more guy up here. We're just going to snipe him. And then we have the main guy to deal with. But if you're struggling, your wolf companion should help you out. But we're going to just try to let him be preoccupied with the wolves, and then we'll sneak in for some attacks. But usually you can get one unsheath on him. Just go for your unsheath attack. You want to break his poise as fast as possible. But for the most part, these wolves are going to be too much for him to handle. And we'll get the Ash of War Bloody Slash. Very, very important to Ash of War, as you will see later. We're just going to send our wolves back home. And up here, the first half of the Dectus Medallion. We need 2 halves to be able to get to Altus Plateau, which is a mid-game area we're not supposed to go to. But we're going to go to it relatively early for a number of reasons. The main reason is there's a plethora of items that's going to help us throughout the whole playthrough, and some smithing stone bell bearings. I called them ball bearings in the last episode. They're called bell bearings. So now with Fort Haight liberated, we can go meet the owner of the fort, Kenneth Haight. However, before we do that, we want to go ahead and continue Blaidd's quest. So we have to meet him first, and with the finger snap gesture that we got at the end of the last episode, we can coax him into coming down because he's perched way up on top of some ruins. And once he comes down, he will give us a quest to kill a boss, which will continue his quest. And we can summon him for this boss as well. And once you get into the Mistwood ruins, just be careful again with the rune bears. You don't want to wake them up. But as long as you don't pick any Trina's lilies, you should be okay. But anywhere in the Mistwood ruins, if you do the finger snap gesture, Blaidd will come down. And there he is up there. You can see him. I was trying to get a good view. Still no good view there. There we go. He's just sitting up there, perched. But now we're going to use the finger snap gesture, and he'll come down for us.
Who goes there? Carly sent you. The name's Blood. He fled somewhere. Come tell me if I can offer you. Barriwil is in need of a...
So now we're going to go find Kenneth Haight. He's right here on this structure, stone structure right here. And there's quite a few demi-humans underneath the structure that you can farm for a chance to get the falchion, another falchion. We're trying to get as many as possible. One for every affinity, really. It's just nice to have it on command. I hate these bats. They're a pain in the ass. We're gonna get an Ash of War that's gonna deal with them promptly. Not in this episode, but probably in episode 3, because I really hate the bats in this game. Some of them that can actually one-shot you. But we're gonna make our way to Kenneth Haight, and there's an important grace up here, which we'll need to have access to because near those bears in a pond, there's a farm area for gold flies, and we're going to need that for our gold pickled foulfoots. But we're going to go underneath the structure first and get some magic grease, and then we're going to go talk to Kenneth Haight and tell him that his request has already been fulfilled. But if you want to, you can kill all these demi-humans for a chance to get another falchion. We are going to get quite a few of those, but we're not going to kill them right now. Kenneth Haight has a very short quest, but it involves other NPCs. We won't be able to complete it until much later. But this is the beginning of it. So just exhaust his dialogue and we'll get the reward because we've already killed the guy in Fort Haight.
Great Kenneth Haight, servant to the... you well, that's... No, despite of... You might have... Young tarnished, I want you to the night come... Remarkable. A fine word out that it... Now, go on. Right then, I've much... What's that look? Well, even the... Which is why... Just you watch... Would you like? I see bright. Enter. And who knows? What say you? Very well. I knew I shall await you. We shall hold a set. I see. Right then, I've much.
So we're coming back to Fort Haight to exhaust some more of his dialogue and continue his quest line. And then we won't speak to him again until his quest line is over. But now when we come up to Fort Haight, we will notice there are demi-humans all over the place. And this is another good place to farm for the falchion. Probably the better place. The coastal cave is really good. There's a lot of good spots. But here you'll get your blood roses as well. At least you don't have to deal with the rats anymore. Exhaust all of his dialogue.
Oh, indeed, one must but a true. I'm sorry, but I haven't the great. But now, for a true one.
Now that we've done all we can do for Kenneth Haight, we're going to go begin another NPC quest, Bach, the Demi-Human. From the Agil north side of Grace, we're going to travel southeast on the road until we can hear somebody calling out for help. You've probably heard this voice before. And also there is a arterial leaf, but before we do that, we want to make sure we make it daytime because the bats can just sawed off. We don't like bats. And we forgot to do our flasks again, so now we're using all our golden seeds to upgrade. Now, like I said, if you travel in this direction, you'll hear a voice.
Oi! You there. Could you help us out, Cully?
Make sure to pick up this leaf. These are rare leaves that we're going to need to craft exalted flesh.
Yeah, you there.
Just roll into this odd-looking tree and Bach will appear. He will give you 10 mushrooms as thanks for saving him, and he will mention a cave that he's scared of on the coast. So you know it's on the beach. We will tend to Bach's needs, but first we're going to continue Blaidd's quest. We need to help him kill that boss because we're going to get a favor from him by helping him kill that boss. Now make sure you kill this scarab. It has the Ash of War determination, and there's a smithing stone on the bridge. And before we continue on the road, we want to get 2 items. One on the right here is a smithing stone, somber smithing stone 1. And on the opposite side of the road, on the cliff there, is another golden pickled fowlfoot. So my strategy with the golden pickled fowlfoots is whenever we kill a boss or something that gives us a hefty amount of runes, we're going to pop one of those. Now the problem with it right now is we don't want to use them until we get another talisman that's going to make our rune acquisition even better. That's another reason I haven't killed the dragon in Caelid yet. A lot of people will go straight to the dragon and just kill it for 75,000 runes. But when we kill the dragon, we're going to get close to 124,000 runes, something like that. Can't remember the exact total. But when we kill the bosses, they're going to give us a lot of runes, and we just want to make sure we get more runes. This is a very useful talisman that we're going to have to go get in Caelid, but it's not the easiest talisman to get. I could get it now. I do have the capability of getting it now, but because this is an optimal guide where I'm trying to make it as easy as possible, we're going to go and get a specific recipe that's going to make it absolutely trivial. But it is possible to do with what we have right now. So here's another good mushroom farm if you just want to sit at this grace, and there's a mushroom right behind us, and there's one right below this ledge. So you can get about 2 mushrooms right here, and sometimes they give you double mushrooms, but it's up to you guys. It is pretty fast. We're going to go kill this boss right here up top. These are called jails. These little mini boss arenas that sometimes you have to use stone sword keys to get into, but this one is free. And we're going to summon Blaidd for this fight. And we're also going to craft some fire pots. I usually use about 5 of them. Shouldn't take no more than 5. And then we'll finish him off with our katana. But Blaidd is also going to be helping us out, so it shouldn't be too hard. The moveset of this boss is kind of awkward. It kind of reminds me of the Dancer from Dark Souls 3, which wasn't my favorite boss to fight, so we're just going to keep our distance and chunk some fire pots at him and wait for an opening to go in with Unsheath. But we can get a few pots thrown in on him right away as soon as he spawns. So just chunk a couple right away. And already we've got him over a quarter already. He might dodge the pots sometimes, but we're just going to keep chunking until we're out. And we can't craft mid-battle. That's one thing. But he's practically dead already, so we're just going to go in and kill him. And that's it. Now that Blaidd's opening part of his quest is complete, we will get a Somber Smithing Stone 2. And we'll get a nice favor that he will mention.
Hard to work for it. Don't say I'm not. Oh yes. If you venture, tell him I and he'll be sure I owe you honor. That's enough chit-chat. It's time we part.
So he mentions a blacksmith in Liurnia Lakes, which we are going to go to, but not in this episode. He sells unlimited Somber Smithing Stones 1 and 2, and a limited amount of 3s and 4s, and they're pretty expensive, the 3s and 4s. So we're going to try not to buy too many of them right now, but we do need to get 1 weapon to +4 before we go into Volcano Manor. So here's the route that we're taking for this playthrough, at least for the first part. We're going to do all these NPC quests initiations right now. That's why it's taking so long in Limgrave. Once we're done with that, then we're going to complete the steps necessary to obtain the Golden Scarab Talisman. And then we're going to kill the dragon in Caelid. And then we're going to kill a few other bosses that are pretty easy to kill, but are touted as very difficult. But trust me, they're not that hard. And we're going to trivialize them. And we're going to get a lot of runes. We'll be able to get over 50 levels at least from just that. And then we're going to start killing the main bosses so that we can get access to the mountaintops of the giants. So we can get one of our main weapons. But along the way, we're going to stop by Volcano Manor to get another couple of items that we want to get. In addition, we still got to stop by Caelid and do a few things, especially get our main weapon for the game, which we do not have yet. Our main weapon. It is extremely useful, extremely powerful, and extremely overpowered. A lot of people don't seem to think so, but I have had nothing but success with it, and it fits my Indiana Jones build. So it is definitely going to be something that we get even before we go to get the Golden Scarab. So right now we're on our way to Castle Morne because we want to get our whip, our basic whip. And there's a few other things we want to do while we're there. Make sure to get this scarab for the Mighty Shot Ash of War. But right here, alright, so here is a Grace and a Merchant, which we're going to talk to the Merchant later. But we want to go hit the Grace here. And more importantly, there is a Spirit Spring behind us here. We're going to go up there right now because there's a couple of things up here we need to do. But if you come up here, you'll get the Turtle Shell. It basically gives you a passive stamina regen. But there's a thing called a Rise up here. This structure is called a Rise. They have these little puzzles you have to find. Usually it involves killing phantom turtles. So first you're just going to read the sign here. And there'll be 3 turtles you need to kill. There's one right there behind you. Then there's one off to the left in the bushes here. And the hardest one to find is in the water submerged. But he gives his position away with the bubbles. Just wait for the bubbles and then hit the turtle. And climb the rise. At the top of the rise, you will get a memory stone. This is the game's replacement for a attunement slot. I really like the way they did it in this game. Instead of having to invest points in attunement, now you just find the memory stones. And every time you have a rise, you usually have a memory stone at the top of it. And we're not using magic per se, but we are going to be using buffs. So buffs take slots. And we start off with 2, but we're going to need more than 2. We are going to do some health regen and some other things, so we want to have a few of these extras. There are memory stones for sale, one in the Roundtable Hold by the Twin Maiden Husks, which we can get. But right now, we're going our way to the Impaler Catacombs. The reason we want to go to the Impaler Catacombs is for Glovewort. We got one before, but now we're going to get the second version. There's varying versions. We need to get up to +5, and we'll have +5 by the end of this episode. Trust me, guys, it's all going to come together soon. All together. We'll be able to get all the things we want. We'll have access to some high game areas, which means we'll have more runes. We'll have a rune farm. We'll have plenty of smithing stones upgraded. It's just going to be beautiful, and this is all working towards it. But we have to go to this catacombs. We are not going to complete the catacombs here. We are just here to get the Glovewort 2, and then we're just going to leave. And then we're going to go to Castle Morne and get our whip and a few other little things. The main enemy to worry about in the Impaler Catacombs is the Imp, but we have a way to deal with the Imp. We can just use the Unsheath skill from the Uchi Katana, and then that poise breaks them and you just riposte them, or just keep hitting them. And if they try a range attack, you can literally just jump over it. It's really not that hard to deal with imps. You can see he's poise breaked and you just hit him once. But they are the masters of ambushes. So here's another one coming down. He clipped us there, but that's okay. Where the imps are extremely dangerous is when they're in groups. And right here we have a example here. There's one at the far end, but there's 2 more in that room. So we can't get cocky and just run towards this imp because he's trying to lure us into a trap. Here comes another one. And there's one more. That is a Grave Glovewort 1. We've already gotten plenty of those. But we're looking for the 2, which is in this room right here. We have to kill this imp first, but we ran out of focus points, so we wondered why we didn't stance break him. That's why. You can still do your skills without focus points. You're just not going to do as potent as an attack. And some just will flat out not work. Now that we've got the Grave Glovewort 2, we're on our way to Castle Morne to get our whip and a talisman and a torch. Some people have deemed this torch that I'm going for pretty useless, but I disagree. I disagree with a lot of experts of this game. I really do. I have delved into weapons that people don't like, and I said, well, if I use it this way, it's pretty useful. Sure, it may not be as useful as other things, but to me, it still has its purpose. to make sure you get the map fragment right here. This will pretty much complete Limgrave. But we want to come up here and get another golden seed. And take note of this location because we need to come back here later to kill a boss. And this boss will give us a weapon that we're not going to use as a weapon. We're just going to have it in our offhand to regenerate focus points. This is one of the easiest ways early on to regenerate focus points. And when you can stack it with other things, then you start to see a significant improvement with your regeneration for focus points. We also can do the same thing for health later. But just take note of those ruins above us there. We will be coming back there. Not in this episode, though. You might get shot by the golem here. We're going to kill him. He's very easy to kill. And before we go into Castle Morne, we need to collect a Trina's Lily from the back side of it. We're going to start collecting these because we're going to be crafting sleep pots later on. They're very finite, these things. I'm sure there's a bunch of them in the world, but they do not respawn. We're just going to use charge attacks and then get off our mount and do a critical. He has a chance to drop the golem bow, but he didn't this time. But yeah, you just want to make your way around here to find the Trina's Lily. There's quite a few that we didn't get in the Mistwood ruins because we didn't want to deal with that rune bear that was asleep. But we'll get to it eventually. But here's your first Trina's Lily. There are ways to farm it, but not until later on, and from a very annoying enemy. So, and then of course the drop rate is very low, so you would need great item discovery, which we do not have that gear yet. There's a few annoying farms we have to do, so we'll get geared up for that time when it comes, but it's not for quite a while. I'm going to hit this grace here, and there are two sections of the castle. There's the left side and the right side. We're going to go to the right side first to get the torch. It's the more dangerous side, though. And usually I die. I didn't die here, but I do die on the left side, ironically enough, when I said that the left wasn't as dangerous. We're going to edit out that death, though. Well, not the death itself. We're just going to edit to right back to where our runes are. So you're going to run through here. You're going to attract the attention of the dogs and a few of these misbegottens. But that's okay. We can funnel them towards a door and take them out. But don't ignore them because they will kill you very quickly. There's some fire grease right here. And there's a claymore in the chest. We're not going to use it, of course, but it's here. Old Dark Souls 1 fan favorite, the claymore. There's so many weapons I hadn't tried in this game. I've tried a few builds, but the Indiana Jones one is the one I've played with the most. I thought they were coming through the door, but don't be lackadaisical. They're coming. The thing about these Souls games, they think you think you're safe, and then all of a sudden you're getting ambushed by two enemies, just like this. Hard hitting as well. Now in this next area, the Misbegottens are preoccupied with fighting some knights, so the knight isn't going to probably die, but you can help him out and then kill him. But I wouldn't just go up the ladder, because if you do that, they'll just climb the ladder. These Misbegottens will chase you down and kill you. But there's a big battle coming up here as well. You can try to weave your way through the chaos and just grab the torch. But I have learned by doing that, your odds of dying go up a lot. So it's better to just kill what's the main threats are. But right here, there's two Misbegottens in this area guarding the torch. Just like the imps, one unsheath will stun lock or poise break, and then you can get the Steelwire Torch. Pretty useful torch. It's better than the one we have, so we're going to switch to it. It has a skill that is just like the Follower's Torch from Dark Souls 3. It sprays fire. What I've noticed about this skill is it has a stop potential, like if a knight is coming at you with a shield, it goes through his armor and his shield, and knocks him back. It has a great knockback potential. And you guys will see me demonstrate that in Castle Stormvale later on. So again, it's not a useless torch. Now we're going to make our way to the other side of the Castle Morne area. And we're going to get killed. But I'm going to edit it out, me coming back to my runes. But when I do die, I do want to talk about it because there's a reason I died. You can always learn from your deaths in any Souls game or Souls-like game. There's a reason you died. It's not because the boss is cheap. Sometimes it is, I guess, but sometimes you underestimated something. You ran in too far and ran into an ambush. In this case, these Misbegottens have very heavy weapons. I do not have armor that has a lot of poise, so I get stun locked. Are stunned, and when you get stunned, you're helpless, and they can follow up with another attack, and that's how I died up here. So I'm not going to show it to you. I guess I should have, but maybe in the future I'll make sure I leave it in, but I just edited out me coming back to my runes just to save time. I killed this one, no problem. But it was the second one that got me. I started to think, well, I'll just draw him out with some bone darts. I crafted some bone darts here. And while he did come at me, his heavy weaponry was too much for me to handle. And I ended up dying. So let's go take two. We draw him out. We just got to be aggressive. Make sure we don't get hit twice. Now these are the ones that are flying, and they're a pain in the ass, guys. We don't have the Ash of War yet that's going to trivialize flying enemies. We'll get it in the next episode, I promise. We could have squeezed it in this episode, but I didn't. You can actually jump to and knock them out. But the Ash of War that we're going to get is going to knock them out of their flying without us having to do anything. And it's going to make them very vulnerable, and it's going to cause a lot of damage too. But for now, we just have to jump at them to knock them out. We want to come down this way, though, because there is a Smithing Stone 2 over here, and we're trying to get as many of those as we can right now. Just going to craft a few of these pots. One has his back to you, so he's not going to be a threat, but there's one hidden behind these barrels here. And they're not explosive barrels. They're just regular barrels, because if they were explosive, we could have easily have blown him to Kingdom Come. But right here is your Smithing Stone 2. Now bear in mind, I missed a stone sword key up here, but we'll get it later. But bear in mind, there is one up here when you drop off on a ledge, but I didn't get it. And we are trying to collect as many of those as we can too. Stone sword keys hide valuable loot. If you know there's something behind a stone sword key, then you know it's something good behind it. I'm going to make sure we grab this grace. Now, if you guys remember in Dark Souls 1, they had these slugs. Well, actually, it was in Dark Souls, probably all of the Dark Souls games. But there's these slugs that are resistant to anything but fire. So we're going to use our new tool, the Steelwire Torch, to take these guys out. Even unupgraded, it's still a very useful weapon to kill these things with. You can run past all these Misbegottens. They're not going to be a threat, but here's the slug I was referring to. Don't stand in front of it like that. But the fire damage is what it's weak to. Not much else. Now we're going to kill a heavy Misbegotten here. He's got a big axe, and he likes to use it, but we're going to poise break him pretty quick, and he won't be a problem for us. Unsheath is so good, guys. It's one of the best early game Ash of Wars, I'm telling you. It can one-shot stun the Caelid giant dogs. Yeah, you'll see that later. We're going to do that in the next episode, I promise. But right here is the Twinblade Talisman. What this talisman does is it increases your damage on the end of a chained attack. And we do have a weapon coming up that's going to have a chained attack, so we can use that to great effect. We're pretty close to the whip. All we got to do is just jump down here, drop down over here to the left. Be careful, don't fall off the missed time of jump or anything, especially right here. Right here, if you jump too far, you might fall in the hole, which I almost did actually. You want to be very careful here and drop down slowly, because right here is a smithing stone 2. You don't want to miss that. And then there's another drop off point right here, but then you want to locate the door. Where's the entrance? Because you just want to get out of here. You don't want to fight those rats and the misbegotten and get ganked, because they will gank you right there. Just hurry up and get the grace. And look at this rat, all so aggressive, just coming at us. But pretty soon we're going to get a torch at the end of this episode that will keep them at bay. Now that we got the safety of the grace, let's go get our whip. The whip is unique because it does strike damage. So it's not slashing damage or anything. And some enemies are only weak to that type of damage. So we're also going to have the spiked cestus as one of our main weapons, which also does strike damage. But on top of that, it will do bleed. So it's going to be a very good weapon. And one of our main ones. And there's our whip. We're going to go ahead and equip it. It's unupgraded, but it's still useful. I'm just going to declutter my chests now, because I'm going to start finalizing my build, and I don't want to have weapons that I'm not going to use. It just makes it easier to switch to stuff. So now we're going to go to continue Bach's quest, the demi-human that we saved from the tree spell. We're going to go to the coastal cave. Now there's a double boss fight in this cave that I'm not too fond of, so I'm going to summon my spirit ashes to help out with it. But it's just, I hate gank fights. I never have liked them. You want to start killing birds, I have to stress this again, because we need their 4-toed foulfoots to craft our golden pickled foulfoots. And the more birds we kill, the better. I will farm for them offline though. But you want to drop down here. As long as you're close to that spirit spring, you won't die from the fall damage. And there's a golden pickled foulfoot right there. Now there's a merchant coming up here that will sell a cookbook that will allow us to craft firebolts and also boluses that will cure poison. Now poison won't be too much of an issue for us pretty soon, because we're going to get an incantation that takes it away anyway, in addition to Scarlet Rot, which is an even worse status effect. But right here, we get the Armorer's Cookbook 2. We're going to buy the smithing stones as well. But the good thing about the boluses is they don't take FP to use, so it's still very useful, and we'll be able to craft them. The problem with the boluses when crafting them is we have to kill dragonflies, and you talk about an annoying enemy to kill, those are it. But there is some easy ones to kill. But right here, we're going to enter the coastal cave, talk to our boy Bach, who's injured, and we shall avenge him. He's not dead, but we are going to get his sewing kit back, which they have taken from him. He's kind of given up on life, and without the sewing kit, he just doesn't have a reason to live anymore. So we're going to make him happy once again by getting his kit back. In addition, we'll open up an area to an island, which will have a few items that we can get. Mainly a somber smithing stone, a smithing stone 2, and another exalted flesh. Exalted flesh will become relevant very soon. But like I said, they require arterial leaves, which are very rare. Now you see how good the whip is, and it's not even upgraded. It does great horizontal attacks and can hit multiple enemies at once. So it trivializes enemies that are like that, in that pattern. Alright, for this boss fight, like I said, I'm going to summon the wolves, but also we're going to use fire pots And we're going to use a buff on our weapon for the first time. The Fire Grease. These enemies are weak to fire. Also in this little area, you can get more silver fireflies if you want to craft the silver pickled foulfoots, which we will do much later. They're not relevant right now, though. When you drop into the boss arena, there won't be anything hostile right away. We're going to go ahead and summon our Godric. Actually, we switched to the Godric soldiers now. They're more tanky than the wolves. I'm going to buff our weapon, and then we're going to chunk some. Once we get a few hits in, best to just keep your distance. Kind of let your spirit summons take a lot of the aggro. But if the Demi-Human Chief comes at you, just throw a fire pot at him and just keep throwing them. They won't last long with everything that's going on. What you don't want to do is go further into the cave and alert both of the Demi-Human Chiefs at the same time, because then you're going to have a fight on your hand. But now we've separated them, so we didn't draw their aggro, so we're good to go. See, one fire pot. Look at how much damage one fire pot does. And we haven't even scratched the surface of what these things are capable of. Just wait until we get the volcanic fire pot. That's what we're going to use to kill a lot of enemies that are weak to fire. And it's simple to craft, too. It only takes one ingredient. There's not much to say, just avoid the attacks. I mean, it's not going to be hard with your spirit summons here helping you out. Once the enemies are dead, the remaining enemies will cower and ask for, basically for mercy. You can slaughter them if you want. Your spirit summons will be doing that anyway. And we want to get out of the cave now. There's going to be a few more demi-humans along the way. We want to get out of the cave and we'll exit into an island here. And this is where you will get your dragon incantations. We're not going to use any dragon incantations in this playthrough. They are extremely useful, though. Oh boy, I have seen some good ones. So there's a couple more humans here. Demi-humans. Again, you want to hope for a falchion if you can get one. It's a good thing. We didn't get a drop this time. We only have one falchion right now, and we want more. I think on the Xbox I have like 6 or 7 that I'm using currently. Alright, so right here, you want to get the grace first, but then you want to climb up onto this stone structure and grab the exalted flesh. And then from there we'll be able to get to the scarab that holds the somber smithing stone, and then further down in that area you'll get the smithing stone 2, which we desperately need. As many of those as we can get right now to get our weapons to +6. Eventually we're going to get a bale bearing that will allow us to buy them, but they're still expensive. We're going to rectify that once we get our rune farm. There's your exalted flesh. Be careful not to die down here. If you get disoriented, it's at the very bottom right here. I've marked it on the map here. Very useful, those markers, I tell you. And again, you just want to sneak up on him. Ball side. You get another somber smithing stone 1. And over here, we'll get the smithing stone 2. And that will do it. Now we're going to return to Bach and show him the sewing kit. You know, as long as I've been playing Dark Souls games, there has never really been a happy ending to an NPC quest. They always die. But Bach has a potential to have a happy ending. He does have a tragic one, which we're not going to do. We're going to do the happy ending for Bach. Because this is like a novelty. We've never had a happy ending in any kind of Souls game. Once you give him the sewing kit, He will look at it for a long time, and then you'll need to exhaust his dialogue.
What made you go into a thing like that? My mum was a seamstress, and that's I always...
Now that that is complete, we will need to go outside because we cannot fast travel from a cave. It's kind of annoying, but we can't do it. So we want to go back to that merchant that we never bought anything from in the Weeping Peninsula. Right here. We went up to that Spirit Spring instead and went to the Impaler Catacombs, but now we need to buy some things from this merchant. He sells a crossbow, and that'll be our first one. But he also sells a cracked pot, which we want more than anything. Smithing Stone 2, all of his Smithing Stone 1s. We're going to buy the Stone Sword Key and the crossbow with a couple of bolts here. We don't have a lot of money to buy bolts right now. Our next destination is the Artist Shack in Limgrave. We didn't go to it earlier, and we could have gone to it much earlier, but we didn't. Now, what the Artist Shacks have are paintings, and if you can find the area in the world with that exact painting, then you'll get a reward. Now, we're not going to use that particular reward because it messes with our Indiana Jones build, but right here is where the shack is, where I'm marking it. So we can go to the Mistwood outskirts. It's the closest grace here. And along the way, we'll get another Somber Smithing Stone 1, in addition to a regular Smithing Stone 1. And then we're going to make our way to a graveyard site, and we'll get a cookbook that will allow us to craft sleep pots, which will become very valuable later on, especially for a pair of bosses later in the game. Now, I am going to skip a section here because there's a rune bear that I just don't want to deal with. He'll kill you instantly, and he's guarding a Smithing Stone 2. Yes, you could suicide get it if you want to, but pretty soon we're going to be able to buy as many Smithing Stone 2s as we want, but I will point out its location. But right here is your Somber Smithing Stone. You just want to kill this scarab here. He'll blow up for some reason. And on the back side of the Artist Shack is your regular Smithing Stone 1. Don't forget to interact with the painting or it won't count. And we'll get this in the next episode. Now we're going to make our way to the graveyard site that will allow us to get the cookbook. Cookbook for sleep pots. And again, like I said, the ingredients for the sleep pots are finite. However, there is a way to farm for them later, but it is not an easy farm to do. The enemies that drop them are in a lake of rot, and it's just not fun. It's not fun to do. And the rate is small, so you would have to have great item discovery. But still, there are plenty of Trina's lilies out in the wild, and as long as you use them sparingly, you'll have enough for what you need. But here's the gravesite. Again, if you want to challenge that rune bear down there, you're welcome to it. But to me, it's just not worth it. I'm about to get a bell bearing from a boss later that's going to let me get as many 1s and 2s as I want. And it's only a Smithing Stone 2, so you can get it if you want. It's always there, but you'll have to deal with that rune bear, which is not fun. Now here is your first sacred tier, but more importantly, the wondrous physics flask. I love this thing. This thing is amazing, guys. It allows you buffs and anytime you want, but it's only usable one time, and then you have to sit at a grace to refill it. But you'll need these crystal tears, which we've already got a couple already, and you'll mix them at the site of grace, and they do various things. They can increase your stamina, they increase your power, attack power in various ways, your defense. There's one that'll actually let you tank an entire hit, and it will negate 90% damage. We don't have that one yet, but yeah, that's just what you can do. So it's, in addition to regular buffs, you can buff yourself with this. So yes, it's very effective. Alright, so there's two options here. You can go through the teleporter that's hidden right there in the water. We're not going to go there right now. And it'll transport you to Caelid. Or you can go to Caelid by just going up the Spirit Spring. But before you go up the Spirit Spring, make sure you kill this scarab, because this item here, guys, is crucial. It is the Sacred Blade. It'll allow you to kill undead enemies and they'll stay dead. And enemies that are weak to holy damage will just fall before it. It's amazing. And you'll see it on full display pretty soon, because we're going to have to kill an enemy that is undead. Make sure to pick up the Trina's Lily up here. It's coming up. You'll want to pick it up for sure. That'll give us 2. It's right there. Now right here, you could do, like I say, we're going to take the other route, but normally you'll see a cave entrance there. We'll come out of there in the next episode. But here, once you get up to here, once you enter into the Smoldering Church area, which is straight ahead of us, you will be locked, because if you sit at any grace after venturing outside of Caelid, you will be forced to go to the Roundtable Hold, and you may not want to do that right away. So, of course, you can always tell her no as well, but eventually you're going to have to go to the Roundtable Hold. But you'll be invaded at that church as well, and we're not ready to just quite do that yet. We want to come over here and get to a merchant, but we're gonna fight a boss fight right here shortly. And let me tell you, there's a nice talisman in this village. We're not going to get it just yet because we're saving our keys for other things, but we do want to come back here and get the turtle talisman later on. It is basically like the Chloranthy ring from Dark Souls. It's very effective, but right now we have to think long term, big picture here, and we got to get into some heavy areas here with our stone sword keys. Hit this grace, and then make your way towards the merchant on the left, but you might run into some skeletons, but don't worry about them. Just run away from them if you want to. You'll have to kill them twice if you are attacked, because we haven't set up Sacred Blade yet. But right here is D, Hunter of the Dead, an NPC that you'll see in Roundtable Hold. If you go to the Roundtable Hold before entering this area, he will not be here. This is your first encounter with him. He'll warn you not to go into the village. Right here is our merchant. He sells a very important cookbook for us. And we'll be able to get some more smithing stones. And very close by, there's another couple of smithing stones on the bridge. But right here, we're going to sell some runes so we can buy some merchandise. He's got a cracked pot, which we definitely want, and the cookbook there. And we're going to buy all the smithing stones. Now, this cookbook will allow us to craft poison bolts, and that's pretty cool because we can combine that with Blaidd later, and we'll be formidable because we'll be bleeding people and we'll be poisoning them. My general strategy for bosses that can be bled and poisoned is poison them first in some way, and then bleed them, and continuously bleed them until the poison runs out, and then poison them again, and then just bleed them again. That's what I'm going to be doing for most of my boss fights, if they're vulnerable to those status effects. Now we're going to outfit our Uchi Katana with the Sacred Blade Ash of War that we got. This will help us kill the boss a lot faster. The cool thing about Ashes of War is it's not stuck forever. Before in other Souls games you had to take it off permanently, but here they just let you take it on and off as much as you want. But eventually we're going to put it on a falchion and it's going to stay there. That's why we want multiple falchions, so that different status, elements can be put on them. Poison, bleed, holy damage, magic damage. You get the gist. We're also going to put an Ash of War on a whip. But right here, he's in this boat right here. He's going to despawn and get further on down the river here. You can't really hit him right away. He'll blow his horn, and here I'm demonstrating why you have to have your toolbar up to snuff. Finally, I put on the golden vow that we got earlier as a buff. And once we use, and then I'm using my telescope. Yeah, this is not a clinic on how to use your toolbar, guys. And this is another lesson in what not to do. But we're just going to tank him, get up on him. He's really an easy fight, especially with the Sacred Blade and the Golden Vow buff that we have. He's just not going to last. There's really not much of a strategy to this boss because we're doing so much damage to him. It's just, we're just going to wail on him. If he puts his boat up in the air, just get out of the way. But I'm not really doing anything to self-preserve myself here. We're just going in guns blazing. You'll get a death root, and the death root is used with an NPC as currency, and we'll talk about that later. Well, we want at least 3 of them before we encounter this NPC. You can visit him early if you want, but we're going to get 3 of them. Here's your Trina's Lily. Make sure you pick up that. There's 2 of them there, actually. And a Smithing Stone 1. Now we can find D, Hunter of the Dead, again over here. He will be impressed with our work, and he will offer up an invitation to meet this beast of his that he knows that wants the death root. He'll mark the teleporter that I mentioned that was in the water on your map as a red marker. But now we want to make our way back to the Smoldering Church. But before we do that, we need to make sure we put Unsheath back on our Uchi Katana, because if we don't, we're going to be stuck with Sacred Blade, and we don't want to fight this NPC with Sacred Blade. We want the Uchi Katana to have the Unsheath. So now we're making our way into Caelid for the first time. Now, Caelid has an abundance of items that we want to get, including the weapon, our main weapon that I mentioned earlier. We're not going to get that in this episode, but in this episode, we're going to get the remaining glovewort that we need, and we're going to get another cracked pot that's nearby. The glovewort in question is easy to get, and it's versions 3, 4, and 5. So that means we can get a spirit summon to +5. You can see where I'm going with this. We'll have an overpowered spirit summon, which will allow us to get into the end game very early and pretty much trivialize the bosses. But what you want to do here is you do not want to aggro the boss. Stay to the left area over here. If you go into the middle area, you will aggro the boss and you'll have to fight him. But here, just stay to the left and you won't aggro him. He's pretty easy to kill even with low level, but we're not going to fight him in this episode. And he's a copy and paste boss that we'll find throughout Elden Ring. And some are harder than others, but their movesets are exactly the same, and they're very easy to kill. They're all weak to fire, too, so we can stack all of our fire damage on them, and they won't stand a chance. And you guys are going to see that, how easily they go down. Even the ones that give you hundreds of thousands of runes. The one that we're going to kill is going to give us like 124,000 runes or something like that, just for killing that one boss, and we're going to make it simple, so... Here is the minor Erdtree Catacombs. We're not going to spend much time in here. There's imps, and you know how to deal with them. They're a little more tanky, and we don't have our Unsheath on. We forgot to put it on again. See, this is what I'm telling you guys. Unsheath is so good. We'll manage, but I recommend putting Unsheath back on your Uchi Katana, don't forget. But the gloveworts that we need are right down this elevator. Now, there is some scarlet rot down here, and we are going to get rotted, but we can get back to the grace in time before it kills us. Right here, you just want to grab the first one right here. That's the Glovewort 4. Now we just need 3 and 5. And there's your 5. And there's your 3. And we're done. We just got to get out of here. And the rot is building up, as you can see. And rot is a lot more deadly than poison. It's more fast acting. It'll kill you much faster than poison will. In addition to just being deadly altogether, it also lasts forever, it seems. So it's quite the problem, Scarlet Rot. But here's the thing. It goes both ways. The bosses can be afflicted with it. And guess what? It will last a long time as well. So now we're going to go to the Smoldering Church, and we're going to take on that NPC. But before we do that, we got to put on the Unsheath again. We keep forgetting, but luckily I remembered here. It just makes the NPC fight so much easier to have the Unsheath equipped. This woman that will invade us, her name is Anastasia, and you start to notice little references from Dark Souls, you know, in some of the enemies. If you remember, like, in Dark Souls 1, you had Maneater Mildred, and that's pretty much what we're going to fight right now. She wields that butcher knife looking thing, and it's pretty much the same as Dark Souls 1. She's slow, and her attacks are slow and very well telegraphed, so she's going to go down very easily. However, if you do get hit, it hits like a truck, so you have to be careful. And after we deal with her, then we're going to go around Caelid a little bit, and we're going to unlock a merchant that is very important for our build. We'll get our spiked cestus and our torch that will keep any of the pests away that are beasts like rats and wolves, and even the big Caelid dogs. They will stay away from us, which will allow us to kill the Caelid dogs without having to worry about the livestock attacking you. Here is your Smoldering Church area. Make sure to grab these 2 cookbooks and grab the grace. She might hit you, she might not, before you can get the grace. But you just want to back up, hit her with the Unsheath. Now you see how much damage she did to me right there. It hits like a truck, like I say. But the best thing to do is just come and funnel her in this hallway here. She'll come at you. She's very aggressive, so you just have to just keep putting Unsheath on her, and it'll be over before it started. See? Nothing to it. But to do it. And now we're going to go get some Sites of Grace unlocked in Caelid, and then we're going to get our weaponry. It's going to be part of our main build, the Spiked Cestus. It's very good. It causes bleed, like I say, quick attacks, and it does strike damage, which is a lot of enemies are weak to. Want to hit this grace here. Just follow this path. This is the easiest way to get to the merchant. We'll also get a map fragment along the way that will open up even more of Caelid. But these Caelid dogs, they're pretty easy to kill with the Uchikatana and the Unsheath skill. And they'll give you a pretty good amount of runes too early on. It can be a good farm for you if you just want some quick runes. And they also have a chance to drop Beast Blood and Hefty Bones. Just bear in mind that if you do want to kill the Caelid dogs and farm them, you're going to need the Beast Repellent Torch, which we're going to buy as soon as we get to the merchant. Because without it, the livestock in the area will attack you at the same time you're trying to kill the Caelid dogs, and that's quite annoying. Because the Caelid dogs will one-shot you. But luckily for us, we have a strategy where they can't do anything. Unfortunately, there is a glitch that happens where their head gets stuck in the terrain, and if that happens, you're going to have to back up and reboot. But it's still pretty easy to do. So we're in the Dragonbarrow now, and we're going to get a Site of Grace here and unlock a fragment, which is very close by. And then we'll get our merchant. Don't go too far past this area, though, because there are dragons all in this area, and they will attack you, of course. And they'll probably one-shot you at this point, so you don't want to deal with them right now. All in due time. But up here, you want to go up here. Keep a low profile. Do not engage the Caelid dogs right now, because you do not have the torch. So they're going to come at you. They will attack you on sight if they see you. But luckily, we're going to be buying the torch very soon. You just want to get to the site of grace inside the shack. Once you're there, you're home free. As long as you touched it. Sometimes that Caelid dog will actually come in there and kill you before you can get to it. So just keep a low profile, get in there as fast as you can. And there's some livestock already trying to attack us. We don't have the torch yet. So now let's go ahead and buy the torch immediately. This is going to alleviate all of our problems with beasts now. And the spiked cestus. Now we're going to go to the Roundtable Hold at last. You might notice that my bow is still in my inventory. It's not part of my build per se, but it is going to be used to hunt birds. And birds will be vital because we need to get their toes to craft our gold pickle and silver pickle foulfoots. So now, once you rest at the site of grace, Melina will come in and offer to take you to the Roundtable Hold. When you get to the Roundtable Hold, exhaust everyone's dialogue that you see. Every NPC you see, exhaust all of their dialogue. Somebody will give you something. And you can also sit at this table. It's kind of like your grace. This is your first guy here. He sells incantations, but he'll also give you the prayer gesture once you talk to him. Right there. We're not going to buy anything from him right now. D we've already spoken to. We don't have to talk to him right now. This NPC right here, Incha, he doesn't say anything, but he'll give you a gesture. And we will be killing him later. He has the gauntlets that we want for our build. And he also has a weapon that we want as well. We gave her the Bone Peddler's bell bearing. Now, Dielos is very important to us because he's the way we're going to get 2 special whips, but not for a long time. Gideon is here. He's kind of like the head honcho of this area. He doesn't respect us right now, but he will in due time. And here's our blacksmith, our main blacksmith for the game. Master Hugh. We're going to go ahead and strengthen our cestus to as high as we can. We're going to +5. We're good. We're going to use all of our smithing stones that we have for now. We'll put our whip up to +2. And that's it. Now we're going to equip some Ashes of War on our weapons. We're going to put the Sacred Blade on our falchion. And the other Uchi Katana that we got from the Catacombs, we're going to put the Bloody Slash Ash of War on it. This will be the weapon that we use to kill the fire giant with. But that won't be for a while. And that will do it for this episode, guys. See you guys in the next one.